It seems like every year now, Texas A&M finds themselves in a surprising and somewhat controversial quarterback battle to start fall camp off. Ever since Kellen Mond left, the year after it was Haynes versus Calzada. It was surprising because we thought it would be Haynes pretty clearly, and we thought it was safe to say that he was the starter at the beginning of fall camp. But Jimbo and company said otherwise. Next year, when Haynes came back from that season-long injury, we thought it would be Haynes King again, yet it was another battle. Max Johnson was there. He posed a little bit more of a threat than maybe a Calzada would the year before, but we still thought it would be Haynes. Now, this year, if you ask any Aggie, they think Connor is the next starter, including myself. If you ask me, I'm going to quickly say Connor. Connor Wigman's the next starter at Texas A&M. But what if this thing actually is a battle? There's a new OC in the house. There's a new line of thinking. Clearly, they're going to adopt a lot of Bobby Petrino's philosophies. Who knows what he's thinking in regards to these position battles? Because he's coming in with a clean slate, with a clean, unbiased eye. And I know a lot of you guys will say, Jimbo's stubborn. He's not going to let his guy get benched just because Bobby says so. I don't know the dynamic in that locker room. How much push does Bobby have? How much pull does Bobby have? What can he say? What decisions can he make? So what if this thing is actually a battle? What if it's not clearly Connor? And the reason I'm making this video, and don't read too much into this next statement, I need to find reasons to make videos sometimes. But the reason I'm making this video is because I was just looking at some pictures at practice, and oh my gosh, here we go, speculating about pictures in practice before pads are even on. Max Johnson looks like an NFL-ready body. He looks bigger. He looks mature. He's obviously taller than Connor. It's just an eye test thing. And Connor still looks like somewhat of a boy, as most sophomore quarterbacks do in college. That's very typical. A lot of times you'll see a big body transformation from sophomore to junior year. Not so much freshman to sophomore. It just takes a few years of being in the weight room. Max has been in the weight room for several years. And I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about this practice clip observation. But hey, it was a spark into this discussion in my mind. What if Max can be this guy? What if Max is the more mature, better decision maker? Maybe he's the better option. So let's make a case for Max. I know it's controversial, but let's do it. But before we do that, if you're enjoying these videos, please consider subscribing to this channel. I'm trying to grow this thing and bring you guys more and more Aggie content. And at the end of this video, I'm going to try to get you guys involved in one of my future videos by asking you a question at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to see if I can get you guys in the mix for one of these next videos next week. Because I'm doing videos every weekday throughout fall camp, so stay tuned. So this has been a pretty frustrating topic, at least in my opinion, for the last few years. I'm of the opinion that the earlier you announce your starter, the better. You got to build chemistry, quarterbacks, receivers, quarterbacks, O-line. That stuff all needs to be built. And in a college football season, college football is the sport of small sample sizes. So you want as much time together knowing who the guy is. You want as much time as possible. And the longer you put it off, in my opinion, that hurts you in that department. Now, as I've said before, I understand being political about these things. We're in the transfer portal era. Players can just leave. They can leave any time in the season and save their eligibility, pretty much. I mean, there are some excuses, some exceptions, but pretty much they can leave whenever they want. So I guess dragging it out makes sense in that regard, but I think it ends up hurting you more than it doesn't. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that. So it's really not too surprising to me to see a quarterback battle, knowing what Jimbo has done, knowing what this team has done the last few years. But what makes this battle a little bit different? I think it's that we've seen both players in meaningful stretches in college football before the battle starts in fall. With Haynes, we hadn't seen him before he was a freshman. The next year, we'd only seen him for a game in like a quarter, not even. We didn't really know what he was in college yet. We saw him play whoever it was, Kent State. He looked good at times, looked bad at other times in that game, and then he barely played versus Colorado. The rest is history. And we had never seen Calzada. So those were two unknowns. The next year, it was Haynes King, same kind of situation. Max Johnson, more of a known commodity, but not at Texas A&M. We still thought Haynes would be the guy. But this year, Connor's played several games, started several games. We've seen a lot of good action from him. Max played some games, and he got better and better every game he was out there. Started with Miami. Good, remember that game? Good opening drive, but then another slog. Not too much rhythm or flow offensively. Same thing the next week versus Arkansas. And then unfortunately, in his final start of the year due to injury, he was getting it going versus Mississippi State. Now, that was a rough game. I don't think the scoreboard was indicative of how close it was. Not that that matters. But I think Max was playing a good football game before he went down. And we've seen really good moments from Max at LSU. I don't have to tell you guys that. We remember that frustrating loss at the end of 2021 where Max probably had his best game of the season. We've seen a lot of Max Johnson, and we know what he can be. He's poised. He's patient. He's a sneaky good runner, has a very strong arm, takes good care of the ball. Now, we got a good recent sample of Connor. We know what he can be. We know he's really good. We know he has like that X factor kind of thing going on with him where he can make things happen, kind of a gunslinger, can throw on the run, can make things happen with his feet. Probably much more agile and quicker than Max, but also much younger, less experienced, maybe a little bit less poised, maybe a little bit more of a wild card. But at this point, now that we've seen him a little bit less so in that regard, I called him a wild card late last year, but now he's less of that. But I still think there's some of that in there. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. So what if Bobby's coming into this camp and he sees this chiseled, older dude, mature body, mature guy in Max Johnson? He's having good reps in practice, and he actually has a chance to win this thing. What if it's not a foregone conclusion? I think this is going to come down to how much Bobby values experience and maturity. Because I don't think there would be a major drop-off if Max was the quarterback this year. Now, Connor the next year, I think, is going to be like this superstar kind of guy. Really, really good. I mean, he has potential to be that. We need to see it pan out, obviously. But what if Max could put together like that one and done kind of a season where everything works around him? You put the guy in there that won't mess things up, but he also makes really good throws and makes really good decisions. What if that's the answer with all the pieces that are around this team, this offense going into the year? What if you want that mature leader at quarterback? And what if Bobby sees that? I think that's the case to be made for Max Johnson. I don't think there's definitely no kind of physical drop off with him. Connor just gives you that crazy upside. It seems like I'm repeating myself because I feel like I made these arguments last year with Haynes versus Max. But he looked good. It took a few games for him to get there. But this team around him, I was rewatching some of his snaps in the games that he started last year, the O-line was abysmal. He was under pressure every single play, pretty much. And the plays he wasn't under pressure, those were the plays that were good plays. Those were the big gains and the positive plays. But there were just way too many of those line breakdowns and just him feeling pressure from all sorts of places where he shouldn't. Just jailbreak after jailbreak, missed assignment after missed assignment by that offensive line. So he didn't really get a fair shake, yet he was getting better and better. I would argue that Connor had a better atmosphere to perform than Max did. Just because by the time Connor got in there late in the season, the O-line finally got a little bit more consistency for a brief stretch at the end of the year where Cam Dewberry was playing and you had all of those five guys were kind of the same for like a 3-game stretch to close the year out. And finally versus LSU, we saw that whole thing come together. If you put Max in there versus LSU, would the same game have happened? Now, that's one that'll make you ponder. That's one that'll make you think. What do you guys think about that? So, I don't know. I think if you're a betting man, you still go Connor all the way. But don't be too surprised if something happens. If we're reading the practice reports somewhere, the last week of fall camp, and Max had a great scrimmage, and the next practice he's out there running with the ones. We really don't know because there's like a whole new outlook on this offense now. It's going to be different. So all I'm saying is I think this thing might be a little bit more of a battle than what we think it is. I'm not saying I'm betting on Max to win it. I'm just saying keep your eyes open. And now keep in mind, the purpose of this video is to make a case for Max. So a lot of things I'm saying I acknowledge are stretches, a lot of speculation, a lot of reading into things a little bit more than maybe you should. But if they're going to call it a battle, well, damn, let's play ball. Let's see what's going to happen here. So look out for these practice reports. Let's see what happens. I won't be mad either way. I don't think Connor's leaving if Max is the starter. Because if Max is the starter, he had a damn good camp. Because Connor's clearly the favorite. So if Max goes out and takes this thing out of Connor's hands, I think Max is set up for a great year with the O-line. I mean, it's great to see Bryce Foster out there at the beginning of fall camp. He's healthy. He's not sick. This O-line, besides Ruben Fothery kind of nursing his, I think, knee back up to strength, he should be back in a couple of practices. This O-line's healthy, and there should be no issues going into week one, barring any fall camp injuries that are pretty common, so it could happen. But we're in a better place now than we were at the start of camp last year. So I don't think it would be like any small thing if Max wins this. It'll be huge. And there's reason to believe it's a one and done kind of year, as I just stated. What do you guys think? I know what I'm saying is kind of outlandish, but at least what are your opinions? Do you think Max has any kind of chance to take this thing? Are any of you guys Max Johnson sympathizers? Do any of y'all think that he should be the guy and Connor needs to wait another year? Are y'all out there? Say hello if you are. I want to hear from you. But guys, that's the end of this topic. And I said at the end of this video, I would try to get you guys involved with the next one. So I don't know if this is going to be the very next video, but sometime next week, I want you guys to give me any Aggie hot take, anything that may be slightly controversial that you have a belief in. What are your Aggie hot takes on the year? And next week, I will make a video about my favorite hot take that I see. Maybe it's something I agree with. Maybe it's something I disagree with. I'm going to give you a video out of it. So let me hear them. Any Aggie takes. So guys, I'll see you on the next one. I don't do them on the weekends. You'll have the next video on Monday. Did you guys enjoy that hype video I put out yesterday? People seem to really enjoy it. I thought that was going to be only for the old Ags, but apparently people like Baba O'Reilly and The Who, so that's a good thing. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Gig 'em.